In this video, as the title says, how to beat the UK Home Office at their own visa rules, I don't mean that you have to use trickery or deception to secure visa, but I want you to understand the hidden rules of the game. There are certain rules which are written so broad and vague that an ordinary applicant is not able to understand. I want to today explain the hidden meanings behind each and every rule to qualify as a genuine visitor. Rule number one in simple language is that after the end of the trip, you must return back from the UK. Now you will say, well, absolutely, I've got the funds. I will go on 1st of August 2026. I will return back on 11th of August 2026. So my trip is 10 to 11 days and that's it. There should be no problem. I will show my return ticket. Guess what? Your visa would be refused. The reason being is what is not written, and you ought to know, is that when they say you must return back from the UK to your home country, they need to see an evidence that supports that. So what they're looking for is your strong economic ties to your home country. It could be a legal obligation, it could be a social obligation, but they need to see an evidence in form of a document. Now let me explain. Now you, Sam, might be sitting in India, for example, or in Pakistan, or whichever country, and you earn a 20,000 pounds a year salary, you got a wife and you got 2 children. Okay, you recently bought a house on home loan which is for 15 years. Now how you can leverage that situation into evidence to meet rule number one? First of all, you have 2 children. If they're studying in school, you can show through your bank statement that I've got 2 children. Here is my birth certificate of my child. I'm the father, and they are going to this in this school, and I pay fees every month, which is a economic obligation of my child that I have to pay. My wife does not work, so if I don't return back, they'll be taken out of the school. That is evidence number one. You can show that you got a legal commitment to pay the school fees on behalf of your children. That's number one. Now, number two, what could be, you've taken a contractual obligation, which is a loan against the property, and you show that every month you pay a home loan, say X amount of money per month. For the last 6 months, you can show, or whenever you took the loan, and you show the mortgage deed that this is the loan in my name, and I must pay back in 15 years. So this will compel me to come back. Third, what you can also show is the HR cover letter that shows how long the leaves have been approved on a company letterhead, what is your job title, contact details of the HR manager, and they confirm that you must return back on this and this date. Never ever you amend that HR letter yourself, because I've seen somebody getting banned because they changed the dates, and then when the home office contacted the HR, they had a different version. So even though you didn't mean to deceive the home office, never ever amend the letter. Always get it approved by the HR and stick to that letter. Okay, that is rule number one. Now, rule number two is asking you that you must not make frequent visits, successive visits, or make UK your main home. Now you will say, I'm only going to the UK for once. I'm an honest person and I'm just going for a vacation as a tourist. Now, but they need to see an evidence that you will not make successive visits or frequent visits. I'll tell you why the rule has been written this way and what they're not openly saying in the rule. Because sometimes what happens is you granted a visa for 6 months, people say I'm going for 10 days, but they end up living for 5 months in the UK. Now you might say, well, the visa was granted for 6 months, so why can't I visit the UK for 5 months? Well, this is not what you promised when you fill up the application form. So whatever you fill up on the application form, and if you deviate from that path in terms of planning, unless there was a medical emergency or something, then it is seen that you are less credible. Now what you can show is, if you've done prior travels to, say, Switzerland or different country, Thailand or Bangkok, and you went on a tourist visa, you can show that through your passport stamps, because now you don't need to physically send your passport. You have to upload each and every page of the passport, including the blank pages, and show that, look, in the year 2024, I went to, say, Switzerland, Germany for a period of 7 days. I complied by the jurisdiction laws. I did not work during those times, and I visited for 7 days, and I came back on 7 days. That is one excellent proof of proving that you did not make a successive visit, you did not do frequent visits, you only went once and you came back. Now what the third rule says and the fourth rule says is that you must go and only undertake permitted activities. That's rule number 3. Rule number 4 is you must not take any prohibited activities. So I'm going to merge them together to explain. So permitted activities on visitor visa means is that if you're going as a tourist, you should go, travel, spend money, stay in a hotel, wherever you want to, and then come back. Now, what they don't want you to do is, on a visitor visa basis, that you go and seek employment or start a business as a self-employed person or take paid engagements. There are some exceptions where paid engagements are allowed, like for example a commentator, but there are different rules, but I'm not going to discuss that. But for ordinary tourists, they do not want you to go and work there or try to directly sell something, that you take some samples in your in your suitcase and then try to sell them and make money, or you bill a UK organization for your time and consultation in the UK for the time in the UK. So that is not allowed. Now, what are the permitted activities? You could be a faculty member who's been asked to do a guest lecture, but not as a permanent member. You could be a lawyer who has to advocate in a trial. That is one thing. You could be someone who's an entertainer who's come for an event. You will do an event and you will come back. Or you are just coming to attend a wedding or a birthday party or just for vacation. Now, the final rule where maximum people fail is, they say in simple sense that you must have money to pay for the entire trip, and when you return back, and also without being dependent on the UK public funds. Now, why this rule is one of the most common reasons for failure is people do not see what is not written in this rule. Let me explain. When they say you must have reasonable funds in the bank account, people say, I want $1 million sitting in my account or $50,000 sitting in my account. My expenditure is roughly £10,000, so I have enough money. The visa gets refused. Why? I'll tell you. Number one reason, you get sudden deposit. For example, if you're about to go on 1st of August 2026 for a 10-day visit, your average monthly income was £3,000, and on 20th of July, you get a deposit of £55,000 in your bank account in your local currency. That deposit is not explained. Who paid it? Where it came from? If it was a lawful deposit in your account, why did you get the money? Right? If you took a loan, you've not explained that relationship. So sudden deposit is one of the common reasons why refusals, it becomes as a red flag. Well, the chances are, if you're not producing the income that is expected of you, and suddenly you get an income that is 10 times or 15 times that is lying in your bank account, it would be a red flag immediately. Okay, what the caseworker wants to know is, are you living within your means? So that is why they ask, what is your average monthly income? What is the average expenditure? That's why if they look at your 6 bank statements, you should look at your monthly income. If you're getting a fixed salary, right? If you were spending money on credit cards, groceries, petrol, you add them all together and divide it by 6. So you will get average expenditure. You add your income and divide it by 6, you will get average income. So average income minus average expense is going to be some, up or down, some savings, average savings per month. Now, if you have certain liquid investments like mutual funds, fixed deposits that you intend to use, which you've redeemed lawfully but have not explained, then your visa would again be refused. For example, your fixed deposits were lying in a different account, and your salaried account is the account that you showed, and you redeemed your investments by selling those, and from those account it came to your this account, but you failed to explain. Even though it was your own money, because you failed to explain, your visa would be refused. If you did not provide the details of which institution you took the money out from, and that institution is not regulated, and if that institution does not do electronic record keeping, your visa would most likely be refused. So here is what you need to bear in mind to prove not only that you got the money to afford the trip in the UK without being dependent on the UK public funds, but you can also show that after the trip, I will have sufficient money to sustain my normal lifestyle going forward. Because this is where maximum people get mistaken about that I had the money, why did they not allow me? Because sometimes what can happen is that if you had a saving of say £10,000, you spent 8,500 in the UK trip, and then you're only left with £1,500 after the end of the trip, and you come back, but your average monthly expenditures are around £1,000 per month. That means you've got only a window to sustain for 1.5 months. No person would do that, in their opinion, right? If you don't explain that you've got other liquid assets, right, which liquid assets means that can be immediately realizable in a day or two, that can be sold and you can get money. It does not include property. Property cannot be just sold in, when you want to, right? So that's why they want like equity stock investments, and how much brokerage would be taken out, what is the tenure of it, and how much money would come in the bank account and when. If you explain that the institution does that, then you will be in a much better position to show that you got money for the trip, you will not depend on the UK public funds, and when you come back, you will have a normal lifestyle. Because what many people have done in certain South Asian countries is they borrow the money from an agent for say X amount of period till they get the visa decision, and as soon as they get the visa decision, they refund the money with interest. To stop that, they introduce this thing which is not written, is sudden deposits. That's what I said. So therefore it is critical that you do not make sudden deposits. If you make a deposit, explain it that I got this and this money, which is it is separate from my monthly income. It is coming from selling my fixed deposit. Here is my name on the bank account. Here is the bank account details. They do electronic record keeping. Mention this word, and I am in control of my account. If you are not in the control of your own account, they can refuse the visa. Okay, so that is rule number 5. Another 3 rules that come into play when you have somebody else paying for the trip. So the last rule was that you must have the funds to pay for the trip, okay, and not be dependent on the UK public funds. Now, sometimes you will have people that you don't have the funds, but somebody else will give you the money. right? If that condition kicks in, then these three rules that I'm about to explain will kick in. So they're related to the sponsor. Now the sponsor could be sitting in the UK or sitting in your home country. So let's take situation number one, that they're sitting in your home country. So you need to first make sure that that person must have either a personal or professional relationship with you. It must be ongoing. For example, your father, you're not employed, your father is willing to fund your trip. Okay, so you need to prove through documentation that it is my father who's funding my trip. This is his bank account number. These are his last 6 bank statements. And he has given me a signed declaration that the total expenditure is this. This is how it's funding, and he has given me all the consent to pay for this trip. And you show that the money went from his account to my account number. His account number is X. This is the bank that has electronic record keeping. This is my bank account, which has also electronic record keeping, and I am in control of the funds from this date. That is why you see a sudden deposit. If you explain like this, there is a check mark. Second thing is, your sponsor must not be in breach of UK immigration. For example, if they came to the UK, they overstayed, or they have got a criminal record or something. But if you've got somebody in the home country, the second rule does not apply. You got no UK immigration breaches. The third thing is, they must confirm to you that for the entire duration of the trip, they will be responsible for your entire payment of the expenses. Right? After all, they're your sponsor. So a signed declaration is an excellent way to prove that. Now, the first evidence was that they must have a genuine, ongoing personal or professional relationship with you. So if it's a family relative, you say, he's my father, here's a birth certificate, or on the passport, my name of my father is written, the address is written, and he's my father, as you can see, and here is my passport copy, which proves that. Third thing is, like, how do you prove that they will pay for your entire expenses? You get a signed letter from your father stating that yes, he's going to the UK, the total trip is this much, and I confirm that I guarantee that I will fund his entire trip for the duration. Now, this was the situation where you had a sponsor inside of your home country. But what if you had a sponsor who may be a friend or a colleague or a relative based in the UK? Many people get it wrong, because you need to also prove that how did you form this relationship? Why are they paying this trip expense for you? Why are they sponsoring you? Now, they could be partially sponsoring and fully sponsoring. The number one thing, when somebody else is paying for you, you need to prove that they are settled in the UK, or they're a British citizen, or they've got a valid visa. Now, if you are someone who's got a friend who's studying in the UK on a student visa, barely making ends meet on 20-hour per week job, if they become your sponsor to call you, the chances are, based on their bank balance, the visa would be refused if they don't have a strong position, because they would also look at their personal financial situation. This is really important. But if you've got a settled status, like they have indefinite leave to remain, skilled worker visa for 5 years, and they have a good job, they're able to pay their expenses, so their bank statements would also be required for the last 6 months, showing that this is the total income, this is the total expenses, and this is the savings. Okay, they need to make sure. Second, they themselves must have not been in any breach of the UK immigration law. For example, if they're a British citizen, they're not governed by any of the UK immigration laws and the conditions, like you cannot do certain acts which are probably for UK visa holders. So you need to make sure that that person who's sponsoring you does not have a criminal record and has not got any immigration breaches history, like overstaying or something, right? Third thing is, they need to also provide you a signed declaration that the total trip cost is £10,000, in which they're happy to provide for accommodation and the food expenses throughout the trip of the UK. The remainder of the trip, for example, the flights and the visa cost, would be paid by the applicant. So therefore, you need to bear in mind clearly what the sponsor is paying and what you are paying. It is extremely important. If you get this wrong, then the visa would be most likely refused. Then you need to also get a proof of accommodation as to, if somebody says, where are they staying? They stay at a 3-bedroom house, the address is there. You need to also provide who else is living in that property. If you don't provide the details like how many rooms are there, if there is anybody staying or not, they could also refuse that you don't have adequate accommodation. So therefore, it's important that you provide that there is a tenancy contract or a mortgage, that you have sufficient space there, and there won't be any overcrowding. If you provide documentation with signed declaration with the sponsor and clearly show that they're paying for the full trip and why they're paying, then you'll be okay. Now, when it comes to friends, how do you prove your relationship? If you've exchanged some communications, if they were probably in your home country and then they migrated to the UK, you can provide your proof of relationship, that you've exchanged some messages, you have some pictures of the school together, whatever it is, that can substantiate that you have a genuine, ongoing personal or professional relationship. Because if you apply the rules like this way, the way I've said to you, there is no guarantee, but I can tell you it exponentially increases your chances of getting the visa, because you're talking in the language that the caseworker understands. Because when they refuse the visa, they refuse on these grounds. They give either reason 1, 2 or 3 that I'm not satisfied. So it's important that each and every rule is provided a documentation proof as to how you meet it. I hope you've liked the video. Please do subscribe to the channel, and this is how I intend to bring you more life-changing videos so that you can not only stay updated with the UK immigration law, but also become better at understanding how the laws are written, how they're interpreted, and what you can do to improve your situation. Now, if your visa has been refused before, then I would expect you to consult a professional. You can always reach out to me. Thank you so much, and till next time, take care.